What's up, YouTube? I mentioned in my last video that I was going to do a video about Maxx C, why I don't like it and whatnot. I figured I'd expand that into hand traps in general. I've mentioned before where I think DD Crow is infinitely versatile, and I've mentioned quite a few times that it's a triple effect railer format. So why? Well, let's get into it. Effect Veiler versus Rescue Rabbit. Honestly, not the best. I end up citing out two Veilers, two of the three versus them, but what's Veiler good for? Veiler's going to stop Tour Guide, it's going to stop Leviair, and in the craziest, rarest of chances, you may stop a Lagia or a Dolka. That's why we cite out two of them. What that really means is when you go to side decks for games 2 and 3, you're already giving yourself two very easy side out options to put in bottomlesses or deep prisons or smashing grounds and things. So it still puts you in a really good position for games 2 and 3, especially if you're able to take game 1. But what about Inzectors? Inzectors and windups are why it is a triple effect Veiler format. A lot of times with the Inzector deck, you end up with one Centipede or one Dragonfly. If you're playing the other build, you could have the Hopper and access to one Hornet. That's usually the way the deck gets going. They have access to one Hornet and one other Inzector, and that's how they set up their next turn's play, which is where they start +4ing. If you don't know the +4, it's Dragonfly, pop with Hornet, special Centipede, pop again, search with Centipede. So off your normal summon, you get to blow up 2 cards, you get a special summon, and you get a search. So that's the +4 they're looking for. If they only have that one Centipede or the one Dragonfly, you Veiler it and then run it over. It doesn't matter how many cards they have in their hand, how many cards they have on the field. You leave them top decking for a Dragonfly or a Centipede. And that's a really good thing, because usually top decking is once you've ran out of cards. You can easily put the Inzector matchup into top deck mode by Veilering their one first play and then getting it off the field. Now, Veiler versus windups. You don't want to Veiler the windup rat. Why? Let them go into Zen Mighty, detach the material, chain Veiler. What you've done is pulled Zen Mighty out of the extra deck. At this point, if they're able to get the loop off later on in the matchup, they have less Zen Mighties to go through, which is a good thing. There is a secondary Veiler play versus windups. Actually, kind of two other plays. You may want to Veiler a windup magician if they're going to go nuts there. But the only other play I ever really see myself Veilering sometimes is windup Shark. Now, why would you want to Veiler Shark? If they normal Hunter special Shark and go to level modulate to start the loop, depending on the resources you have at your disposal, sometimes you might want to Veiler the Shark so they can't exceed at all. Usually I still let them exceed so I can just Veiler the Zen Mighty, get it out of the extra deck, and go from there. But on occasion you may want to Veiler the Shark. Now what about DD Crow? DD Crow sided out versus Rabbit. Really all you're doing is stopping Call the Haunted, Monster Reborn, Pot of Avarice. It's really not worth it. So along with the 2 Veilers and the 1 Crow that you side out, you've opened up 3 spots to the side deck. That's a good thing. Now versus Inzectors, you want to hit that Hornet. I've mentioned before how a lot of the time the deck gets 1 Hornet in the grave, and that's the Hornet they use to keep the engine moving to go for game really quick. It's really not as often as you see them having access to 2 or 3 Hornets. They get that 1 in, they make a +4 play, which gives them ridiculous advantage, and they win in the next turn or 2. So if you're able to Crow that Hornet, you leave them top decking for Hornet. Just like when you Veiler Dragonfly or Centipede and then get rid of it, you leave them top decking for another Centipede or Dragonfly. Puts you in a very good position against the Inzector deck. And versus windups, 99% of all of them only play 1 Hunter. If you Crow the Hunter, they can't hand loop you, and that is a very predominant thing you want to stop. Now, what about Maxx C? Why do I think Maxx C is a bad card? Why do I think it's just not worth it? Well, let's look at the Rabbit matchup. You chain Maxx C to Rabbit. Because Maxx C has the Monsters clause, you're only going to get to draw 1 when they special the 2 dinos. Then they're going to go into either Dolka or Lagia, so you draw a 2nd card. Now, let's say they go into Lagia. You need to either Bottomless, Compulse, Deprison, Smashing Ground, Normal something useful that they're going to negate with Logia, which makes your plus off Maxx C down to 1. Then that Logia is still on the board that you have to answer to, and pretty much everything right now in the format doesn't really get over 2400, which means you're still trying to use a Deep Prison or a Compulse or a Smashing, or something along those lines. A Book of Moon and a Cyber Dragon to run it over to get that Logia off the field, which means in best case scenario, you're net 0 with Maxx C if they go into Logia. Now, I do things a little bit different. I don't look at pluses strictly in terms of card numbers. If that Logia stays on the field for 2 or 3 turns and it's attacking you as well, if it's getting to your life points, they are at the plus while you're at the minus. You took 2 off Maxx C. They've negated a card and run over 2 monsters you've controlled and dealt life point damage, which really puts them in the plus for having gone into Logia. Now, if they go into Dolka, if you don't have the answer with, Compulse, Deep Prison, Bottomless, whatever, they're going to negate 2 effects and have a 23 beater left on the field. That's 3 for them versus the 2 you drew from Maxx C. So right then and there, they're already plus 1. The longer that Dolka stays on the field attacking you and whatnot, their pluses keep going up. And the other thing is the psychological factor. Once they have Dolka on the field, your mindset is going to change in the way you play to try to get an answer to Dolka before they can negate your effects, which is slowing down how you play, which is more advantage to the opponent. So best case scenario versus Dino Rabbit and Maxx C, you net 0 versus Logia. Otherwise, they're still going to be in the plus. Versus Inzektors, it's just bad. If they have the Dragonfly for the plus 4 play and you Maxx C, you draw 1, they plus 4, it's a net plus 3 for them. Don't play Maxx C versus Inzektors. And versus Windups, they're not going to do the hand loop, because if they try and hand loop while Maxx C is active, you draw 3, then discard 1. It's a plus 2 for you every time they loop. So what would all of these decks do if you Maxx C them instead? Well, let's say you Maxx C the rat, or the Tour Guide, either one of the two. Say Tour Guide for the Rabbit matchup, or the Windups, or they use Windup Rat, whatever they're going to do, and you Maxx C. They're either going to go into Hunter, or they're going to go into Tour Bus, Tour Guide, Sandkin. So right there, you draw 1. Then, if they're smart, they're going to exceed into Zenmane, so you're going to draw 2. Now, earlier I mentioned how I treat pluses a little different than strictly card numbers. Zenmanes, you have to kill 3 times, as well as it gets to blow up 2 cards on the field. Usually those are yours, which means Zenmanes is a 5. You only drew 2 off Maxx C to get there, which means just by going into Zenmanes, if you don't have the Compulse, or say a Super Poly if you're playing Heroes, they go into Zenmanes, they plus 3. Now, it's even worse versus the Inzektor matchup, because if they take the plus 4, they plus 4 while you only drew 1, and then if they decide to go into Zenmanes for that additional 5, that play is a 9 for them and a 2 for you. That's plus 7 in favor of the Inzektor player, which is not good. So for those reasons, that's why I think Maxx C is not really worth it. While you may be siding out Crow in most of your Veilers versus Dino Rabbit, they are still so good versus the other 2 Tier 1 decks, you kind of can't not play them. So anyways, that's my rant. Let me know what you guys think. Comment, rate, subscribe. I'll talk to you later. Peace out.